No rough stuff. None of this. Or this. Or this. Or like so. Or this. Or this. Or this. You understand?
Yeah, you mean none of this? Or this? Or like so? Or this? Or that? Or...
Hello everyone, welcome to my manga review for Ashita no Joe. That's right, you fuckers, I've been reading it this entire time! It's funny because I'm making it seem like I don't know anything about the series, but I'm literally reading it right now. Ashita no Joe is a boxing manga that was written by Asao Takamori and illustrated by Tetsuya Chiba. And it ran in Weekly Shonen Magazine from 1968 to 1973. Making this one of the oldest manga I've ever read. You know, getting a bit of Gekiga in on the side, you know how it is. Now, this series really needs no introduction. It's, of course, extremely popular, very influential, probably one of the most influential manga of all time. And despite the manga never having an official English release, pretty much everyone still knows about it. And I, of course, knew about it for a very long time, but I was never really interested in it because who gives a rat's ass about boxing? I don't know, man, two people beating the shit out of each other, I mean, that can be fun and all in like an action movie, but I don't want to see that shit for real. That's gross. But there has been a very strong push among certain people to get me to read this manga, and you know, with this being one of my final reviews, yeah, fuck it. Ashita no Joe takes place in Japan and follows Joe Yabuki, a very troubled youth, let's say. He's an asshole, okay? He's an orphan, he's been a drifter his whole life. Doesn't like authority, he doesn't like teachers, he don't go to school, right? He just goes around, talks smack, and beats the shit out of people as he sees fit. This draws the attention of Dampei, the local alcoholic and former disgruntled boxing coach. He sees this kid and he's like, listen man, this is the kid I need. This is the next star, okay? I see the future of boxing and it's this kid. Is this kid right here. Oh god, he's a handful. I don't care. I'ma teach him anyway. So Dampei takes him in, starts to teach him how to box. Joe's not really into it at first. He sees Denpa as, you know, sort of this just old, crazy boxing guy. He does the boxing because it's fun. He likes beating people up. But he's not really super into it. Yet. Certain events play out as a result of Joe being an asshole, and they lead him to meet Toru Rikishi, a pro boxer. Joe's kind of full of himself, and he just expects that he'll be able to, you know, defeat anyone who comes his way. But when he meets Rikishi, someone who's multiple levels above him, it sets off a spark in him. The spark of purpose. He wants to get better, to kick the absolute shit out of this man. Yes, this newfound rivalry with Rikishi really gets him going. He decides, you know what, I'm serious about this whole boxing thing. Dampei, let's team up, use your old connections in the industry, get me some matches, let's fucking go. And from there, we have a series. And a very character-driven one at that. So most of what I'll have to say will be in that character section, but for now, let's just look at the story here. It took a while to grab me. Not gonna lie. I think the start of this series, which just mostly involved Joe going around, bumming around with the neighborhood kids, being a loser, being a little shit disturber, Dampei being an angry old drunk, I wasn't really feeling it at first. I was starting to think that I might have been duped. Maybe this series wasn't all it was built up to be. However, once Rikishi enters the picture, things start to change. Things start to become a lot more interesting. And as we were thrown into the wide world of pro boxing, I found myself being fully engrossed in the tale. I should say first, I didn't know anything about boxing going into this. Like, I had seen Here Comes the Boom. I had seen the episode of Always Sunny, where they rip off $1 Million Baby, but I'd never actually seen $1 Million Baby. What else? I think I saw that, like, iCarly Victorious crossover with the boxing match. I think that's what that was. The point is, I had no interest in it, whatever. So a lot of this series was sort of me experiencing this world for the first time. And goddamn is it brutal. These boxers have sort of, like, dedicated their entire lives to the sport. Like, you can't really do much else. They're just always constantly training. They do months of training just for, like, a one match, which could either bring them fame and glory or ruin their entire career, or possibly even worse. This is a very, very brutal sport with harsh, harsh consequences, which you are constantly reminded of because this is really a series of consequences. The general format of the story is just Joe making his way through this pro boxing world, fighting matches, making new rivals, winning some, losing some, and facing the consequences of all of these events, whether they be good consequences or bad ones. You really see it all here. Joe wins a match, everyone's happy, fame and glory, money, he doesn't have to work at that shitty grocery store anymore. But there's also the physical and mental toll that this sport can have on someone, and the series really does a fascinating job exploring all of these things. And it weaves it all expertly in just a story that was very suspenseful, very fast-paced and engaging. It's long and pretty dialogue heavy, but it never lingers on the point too much where it becomes slow. And it does just a great job of balancing, you know, all the fast-paced boxing matches with, you know, the other juicy stuff. And while the drama here is great, the boxing matches themselves are a huge selling point for this series. I think they were expertly done, and again, not knowing much about boxing, I don't know how many liberties were taken, but they were always super intense and gritty and unpredictable. There were a lot of crazy directions some of these matches took that I was not expecting at all. And they really served to add more to this story as a whole. And it all comes together in a finale which, I just finished it, but it might have been one of the best manga finales I had ever read. It was extremely visceral, suspenseful, and it gave me goosebumps. I think they really wrapped everything up nicely in a very satisfying conclusion that is unlike most things I had read before. So yeah, really, really strong stuff here. I mean, I kind of expected that going into the series' reputation, but I came away with it still not really being interested in boxing itself, but feeling thoroughly entertained and satisfied. And aside from a start that did take a while to invest me, I don't have many problems with it at all. However, there was one match near the end of the series that, I'll expand on that later, but yeah, for now, good shit. Really, really, really enjoyable story. But the real meat here is with the characters. Joe Yabuki. So this guy's interesting because obviously I'm a huge fan. I really enjoyed this series. But I don't think I've ever enjoyed a series this much where I pretty much hated the main character's guts. Joe Yabuki is an awful person. I don't care. What the fuck is wrong with this man? Okay, he starts as a little hooligan, okay? Orphan, troubled past, whatever. But that doesn't excuse his rowdy behavior. Oh my god, dude, please shut up. Every time people say something that Joe does not agree with, which is most things, he fucking blows up at them. He threatens violence, often, you know, resorts to violence. He's just a no-good brat, honestly. Like, he really is. Now, obviously, he does mature throughout the series. The series spans multiple years throughout his pro boxing career. He's like a teenager at first, and then he becomes an adult by the end. And he definitely matures. Matures to the point where he is able to be a functioning member of society. He really wasn't at the start of this series. However, he's still an asshole. Right up to the bitter end. Like, seriously, man. The stuff this guy would say to people, what a mean person. Jesus Christ. This is y'all guys' role model? Seriously? But here's the thing. Despite him being a bad person, and I'm not gonna move on that. Dude's a fucking just, oh my god. As an actual character, as part of this story, he is somehow, despite it all, kind of fascinating. Because, like, you do understand why he is the way he is at first. Like, he didn't have it easy. But once he finds boxing, once he finally finds this purpose in his life, he sort of becomes this just unstoppable force who will truly stop at nothing to achieve his goals. And his goal is the top. He has this infectious confidence that while you may hate this little fucker, you can't help but feel drawn into his story and wonder just what is he going to do next. He often goes against other people's wishes if he feels like it would further his career, and he has a pretty high success rate at doing so. Something that was crazy to watch was just how obsessed he becomes with boxing, and how it pretty much consumes his entire life. A bit of a contrast to Joe is Nishi, one of his friends who Danpei actually takes on at the same time as Joe to train him to be a boxer as well. They both get into boxing together. While Nishi enjoys it as a hobby, he finds much more fulfillment in other things, while Joe continues on and does not stop. Does not stop, man. His commitment to the craft is admirable, even though he's aggravating, and even though you might think he's crazy. I personally do. I can't help but respect the hustle, man. Another thing that I think is really important in, making Joe a good character, might not be a good person, but a good character, is, like I mentioned earlier, he faces consequences for his actions. Everything he does that is awful and you recognize as awful, the other characters do as well. He does not always get off the hook, and is rightly seen as a ruffian when he needs to be. In comparison, you have something like Bakuman, which I reviewed earlier this year. I really hated the main characters in that, and they did a lot of terrible things, but the difference there is that they were still seen as the hero. Like, the bad things they did were seen as just like goofy quirks. Oh, well, he's just boys being boys. But the Ashita no Joe sort of follows the model, talk shit, get hit. The main reason I actually bring up Bakuman is because that series spoils the ending of Ashita no Joe. I actually knew how this series ended because I had read Bakuman, and while it didn't take away my enjoyment of the ending, yeah, that's just another reason not to read Bakuman. So yeah, all around, seeing Joe's descent into, quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, madness, was an exhilarating journey. While I think he is an abhorrent human being, oh my god, I'm definitely never going to forget him. And I thought how his character arc wrapped up was pretty much perfect. And I don't know if it could have possibly been any better. Wow, man. Oh, God, it's so weird. I want to fucking strangle this kid. But, like, also, god damn, man. The hustle. The hustle! Now, Joe's just one character. Obviously, the main focus of the series. But, like, there's a lot of other fantastic characters to unpack here. Thankfully, pretty much all of them are more likable than Joe. Well, most of them. There's, like, one guy who, like, literally beats up children. That was fucking hilarious. But yeah, you have Danpei, who's like a really low point in his life when he first meets Joe. But after he meets Joe, he starts to, see this future, this tomorrow's Joe, and he sort of works to recapture this old coaching spark that he used to have, rebuild a gym, get back out there, and seeing him, battle all of his past demons with alcoholism to, pave the way for this future was really nice to see, and I like the relationship he develops with Joe. It's very loud, there's a lot of arguing, but there's something a bit endearing about it. It was nice and sweet. Nishi is along for most of the ride as well. I already briefly talked about him, how he serves as sort of this what-if scenario for Joe if Joe had decided to, live a normal life after boxing. And there's Noriko as well, who's a girl who has a bit of a thing for Joe, but Joe don't want to hear it. Joe, it's all about boxing, man. Boxing is life. And she causes him to question certain things as well. Yoko is a character who meets Joe early on in the series, and she sort of sticks around and takes a bit of a leadership role that was very uncommon for, a woman in the 1960s, 70s. So seeing her, struggle with all of this, and also how her relationship with Joe develops was really interesting, and it was another aspect of the series I enjoyed. But of course, you have the big boys, the rivals. Oh man, does Joe have some rivals. Of course, Rikishi, the original rival. This dude is basically as crazy as Joe. Okay, he's a lot more likable, but like Joe, he has dedicated his life to the grind. And yeah, that's certainly something he does. Jesus fucking Christ. As Joe continues his career, the rivals he faces become stronger, more dangerous. And I don't really want to go in depth on any of them. I feel like, leave some surprises. But there's the one character I didn't really care for, and I just thought was fucking dumb. So, near the end of the series, they make Joe fight this dude who was literally raised in the jungle, probably by apes, fucking, like Tarzan. I understand why they had Joe fight him, there is a good reason for it, but I think it was just a bit too over the top. Like, he can't speak or communicate properly with humans. The way he fights is like a fucking, like a Donkey Kong. And unlike pretty much every other fight in the series, like, I didn't find it very satisfying at all. It was just this really weird section of an otherwise fantastic story. But yeah, other than that guy, brilliant cast of characters. Like, Joe is such a fascinating character that he sort of overshadows everyone else, but I don't want that to give the impression that the other characters aren't great as well, because they are. But that is not the end of the high points, because of course we have the art. This series hits, man. It's older, so it does have, you know, a more cartoony style that was more reminiscent of the manga of the time. And it's great. The character designs are all very distinct and iconic. But the real draw here is the way Chiba draws the boxing matches, because they are absolutely incredible. The way he conveys movement, the composition of the panels, how gritty and bloody you feel every impact. Impeccable stuff. Seriously. They were so perfectly paced, you could always sense the danger that the characters were in. Insane, intense stuff. Really, really wonderful. I didn't have any problems here. So that was my review for Ashita no Joe. I liked it. The story was intense and engaging. I thought the characters, especially Joe, was fascinating, and the art brought it all together to create a wonderful package. There were a few moments that I wasn't really into, but, you know, at the end of the day, yeah, amazing. 9 out of 10. If you want to read this series for yourself, well, you can't. Yes, despite the popularity, it has never gotten an English release. That's really weird, and I don't know why, honestly. Like, it's not even that long. Just do it, you cowards. So yeah, you want to read it, you're on your own. You're adults, you can figure this shit out. Now, there was an anime series, which I believe, I don't know if the whole thing got an English release, but like, it has gotten released in English at some point. Whatever, man. This is a manga channel. You don't come to me for facts about anime. And I'm not gonna watch this anime because, you know, I have a life. However, I have heard from many sources that this anime is amazing. And it adds a lot more, like, original content to it that is also great. And, you know, from what I have seen, it does look pretty good. So, you know, if you're more of an anime person, this might be the way to go. It also got, like, an anniversary reimagining thing called Megalobox, which I've also heard is good. Lots of content for Joe fans to enjoy. So that'll do it. Thank you to everyone who recommended it to me. I know it must have been pretty annoying for me to blow it off for so long. But yeah, anyway, the next review is going to be a viewer vote. I'll be releasing a video soon with more info on that. Thank you all so much for watching. You can leave your thoughts in the comments down below, and I will see you all soon.
Dear kindly social worker, they say go earn a buck, like be a soda jerker, which means I'd be a schmuck. It's not I'm antisocial, I'm only anti-work. Glory, Oski, that's why I'm a jerk.
Officer Krupke, you've done it again. This boy don't